Hey guys, welcome back to Human Condition. This video is another video in our astrology series. This video is what does it mean to be a Sagittarius ascendant? So this should be a pretty interesting one. Using the whole house system, first house for Sagittarius ascendant is Sagittarius. First house represents our persona, how we act, and how we're perceived by other people. So with Sagittarius ascendant, we see people who are very knowledgeable, smart, educated, potentially like teachers, potentially. And people that like to travel. So this ascendant sign is one that usually likes to travel a lot or has a history of traveling throughout their lifetime, potentially. For the first house. The second house is in which represents friend groups, love, and money. So this represents how one gets their resources and the friendships and the friend groups and potentially romantic relationships. The second house is in Capricorn. So for Sagittarius ascendant, Capricorn represents future success and hard work in career. So this suggests that their wealth, which makes sense, is tied to their career, their main financial, and their reputation, their future and success. So this could suggest potentially they have a job where they're really well known, and through this reputation, that's how they gain their financial resources. This also suggests that potentially romantic relationships, they might find them in their career and their future, and their reputation helps them attract their romantic relationships, as well as most of their friend group might be found in their job area, their workforce. The third house, communication, intellect, what the Sagittarius ascendant usually thinks about potentially, and their perspective. Also, obviously, other things in life impact people other than their signs, but based on the signs, third house, communication, intellect, what to think a lot about, is in Aquarius. So Sagittarius ascendant person usually thinks about society, societal problems, humility. So when they're talking and thinking, their mind actually goes to deep, probably big political, societal, activist mindset, potentially. Also, for example, like a teacher talking about society, a traveler learning about politics or all sorts of different governments and structures. This can be seen potentially through a Sagittarius ascendant. Also, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion and grace and luck. So usually Sagittarius ascendants are pretty lucky most of the time, and they're usually pretty lucky. Fourth house is a sign of past home and family. So for Sagittarius ascendant, it is in Pisces, which represents self-sacrifice and self-isolation, which I know sounds kind of intense. That just means Pisces is a sign of empathy and giving up one's own needs for other people. So past home and family and self-sacrifice and self-isolation. This can mean two things. It means that their family dynamic was pretty strong, actually, and their family was very empathetic on a positive note. The con being their family might have gave up a lot to help them, but in a good way, but gave up a lot to help the Sagittarius ascendant, or vice versa. The Sagittarius ascendant gives up a lot to provide and help their family in the past when they were young. They had to take on maybe a more mature role, or not only that, just gave up a lot to help their family, or vice versa. Their family did that for them, and that instilled values in their future in their emotional state in the future to when they go out to be more emotionally empathetic and give up things for other people, which is a good thing in their day-to-day life. But also, when they have a family of their own, they give up all their own desires for their family, which is pretty wholesome, pretty good, which could represent that. The fifth house, creative expression, ego, and self-confidence. So this is how Sagittarius expresses themselves one-on-one with people and how people feel comfortable expressing themselves with the Sagittarius ascendant one-on-one. So for the Sagittarius ascendant, it's in Aries. So self-confidence and creative expression is itself. So with the Sagittarius ascendant, which kind of makes sense because the first house is in Sagittarius, when they first meet people, they're very not very talkative about themselves. They're opposite of Gemini, which is a sign of communication, intellect. So they take a more quiet approach. Well, not quiet, but like brutally blunt and honest, but a more listening approach to the people. So this makes people comfortable enough when they one-on-one to express themselves. And once they do that and their passions, the Sagittarius Ascendant expresses theirself very boldly and their passions. So with a Leo, with their 5th house in Aries, represents their creative expression and self-confidence comes from their passions, and their sense of self, high self-confidence potentially, and also a desire one-on-one to express themselves. They want to express who they are and their passions, and so do people. Other people want to express themselves and their passions to them. The 6th house. This is the house of day-to-day reality, work ethic, basically the workforce. Virgo. It's ruled by Virgo, which is also ruled by Mercury. It's the sign of workforce, hard work, determination, day-to-day life. Opposite to the 12th house, which in my opinion is probably one of the coolest houses. It's a house of dreams and imaginations and our hidden desires. So for Sagittarius Ascendant, the 12th house is in Scorpio, which means their dreams and hidden desires are in Scorpio, which is the sign of intimacy, death, and transformation, which sounds intense, but it just means deep emotional connections with people, to the point where it might be chaotic, but deep emotional connections with people, and a strong emphasis on getting into serious romantic relationships or multiple serious romantic relationships, but a very serious romantic relationship is one of their desires. However, the reality is 6th house, which is in Taurus, the opposite sign. So even though their dream in reality is deep emotional one-on-one connection with people and personal growth, intimacy, death, and transformation, the personal growth and development, which Scorpio represents. The death represents just death of like a rebirth, basically the pass of an old self to a new person self. That's a dream and desire potentially, but in reality, work ethic and workforce is in their friend group, their jobs in their friend group, and financial resources. So kind of makes sense. Going back to the 2nd house, makes sense, right? Because their friend group, financial resources come from their reputation, their job. Within their job and work ethic, their day-to-day reality is with their friend group and financial resources. How they long for, instead of just having this friend group, to actually have more of a deep emotional connection with one-on-one people in the friend group. And Taurus is a sign of routine and consistency, but the Sagittarius Ascendant might long for, potentially, in my opinion, long for more of a personal growth and development. And that's kind of what they desire. But when the reality is in the workforce, they might have a job that they got from their friend group, potentially. Maybe their friends were like, hey, you should get this job with us, Bursky, or something. And then they join the job with their friends, or vice versa. They establish their friend group from the job. And then obviously get their main, maybe romantic relationships in their day-to-day life happen at their job. This suggests as well. 7th house is in Gemini. 7th house represents the people you attract and how you act with those one-on-one people, but it's different from the 5th house, which is how you express yourself, just a tad bit. For the 7th house, which is in Gemini, since typically the Sagittarius Ascendant person is like the teachers, the travelers of the world, they attract people that like to small town, like to stay locally, neighborly type of people, friendly type of people, social networking type people, which is Gemini. So they attract people who are very communicative. Gemini, the sign of communication, intellect, that are very opinionated people who like to debate and have deep opinions on things, and very communicative, because the Sagittarius Ascendant itself, when it first presents itself, is more listening and more quiet, so they attract people who are more opinionated. But this also shows how they act with one-on-one people. So after they attract these people, the more they might also become more communicative and opinionated once someone else gets them talking about something. It's just. That's 7th house. Their 8th house, which is probably also one of my favorites. This is, each sign has their pros and cons. And like I talked about all videos, each sign is still awesome and lit. So with a Sagittarius ascendant, their weakness suggested potentially in life is in past home and family. It's just maybe a potential struggle at their past, kind of like a Leo ascendant, very similar to Leo ascendant. However, this struggle in the past helps with this sign, helps them learn and grow, and personal development help them grow. But once they have to go back and relive those struggles in their past, within their family or just in their past in general, or just emotional struggles, because Cancer is a sign of not just family but your emotional state. And once they get this, they can, since linked, 8th house is linked to the 12th house, their dreams and desires of deep emotional connections, they can finally have personal growth once they overcome their past struggles and past emotional states within themselves, within their past, or within their family. If there was a struggle in the past, they can finally form deep emotional connections that they're longing for or looking for, potentially, in my opinion. Very similar to the Leo ascendant, just a little different, tad different. A lot of the signs that have ascendants that have the same elements have similar paths, but a little bit different each one. The 9th house is knowledge and travel, and what they learn. So this is like almost like their sign's life lesson, or what they learn in life. So with the Sagittarius ascendant, it is in Leo, which kind of makes sense, which is the sign of creative expression, self-confidence. This is the 1st, 5th, and 9th houses are all linked. So the 1st house being the teachers, but the travelers of the world, they attract, they persona of like a listening ear. Then the 5th house, the people they attract, they have they express their passions in themselves. So through this expression, they gain knowledge. So the 9th house is in knowledge and travel, is in creative expression, self-confidence, and ego, or creative expression, self-confidence, because through this, through the expression of one-on-one with themselves and their passions, they learn a lot from other people and just people in general, and that's their main source of what they learn. And their main source of knowledge comes from their creative expression and their self-confidence, because through this they learn more about other people. Because people feel comfortable expressing, like we talked about earlier, the 5th house, expressing themselves to them and their passions to them. Kind of similar to like Leo ascendants and Aries ascendants, other fire ascendants. The 10th house, which is reputation. The reputation and future success, the reputation, the career is in Virgo, which this is how 10th house is how people perceive them. And the 1st, 4th, 10th, and 7th house are all linked. 1st being the sense of self and the persona. 4th being their past home and family and their emotional states. The 7th being friendships and the friends they attract potentially. The 10th is their public appearance or persona, or public how the public views them potentially. So with a Sagittarius ascendant, their 10th house is in Virgo. So people usually view them as small talk, which is Virgo, small talking, hardworking, determined, and workforce oriented. And this is true to an extent, but they're actually more wisdom based. But people view them as being work knowledgeable, but in reality they have just knowledge about a lot of different things. but people see them from a distance as more work-oriented than what they are. They have more knowledge of what people perceive through the 10th house, potentially. People see them more as work knowledgeable, small talk, and hardworking, but really they know a lot more facts than they get credit for a lot of the time. So yeah, potentially. So this 10th house being in Virgo makes sense because their second house is in love and money and finances, is in their job, their career, their reputation. Their sixth house is in the workforce, in their day-to-day reality, is in their friend groups and their finances. So their career, future success is in their job, and their reputation is in their job, and their hardworking, determination, and their small talk. They all kind of works together because finance, career, the job goes to the finances and the friend group, and the career and the reputation helps with the job. They all kind of go hand in hand. 11th house is their role in society and how society views them. For the Sagittarius Ascendant, the 11th house is for Capricorn. The 10th house is in Virgo, so the 11th house is in Libra. So the role in society and how society views them is as a diplomat, as the friend, kind of as like the wise mentor, the diplomat, the friend, the wise mentor, and this is also how they view society. So this is because what they think about a lot, like I said earlier, is society and societal problems, because they know a lot about society from their traveling and their studying as like teachers or the travelers of the world. The friends they make are very opinionated and debaters potentially, or opinionated and have deep opinions on things, abstract ideas. So this makes sense that society views them as a friend and a diplomat, and they view society as a place where it's all about making diplomacy with other people and friendships, in a way, and that's how they are viewed. And finally, their 12th house, their dreams and desires, I talked a little bit earlier, is in deep emotional connection to people, because even though they're known as the friend and the role they have in society is as a friend and as a diplomat, they might not have that deep emotional connection that they're longing for, because again, their day-to-day realities in their friend group, but they might not have that deep emotional connection, which is very similar to another sign, ascendant sign as well, I talked about recently. I think probably Leo had something similar towards that, because they're both fire ascendants. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe if you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.